I will call this Tigard City Council and Local Contract Review Board meeting to order. Deputy City Recorder Raimundo, please call roll. Apparently I haven't spoken in a while.
Councillor Shaw.
Here.
Councillor Singh.
Here.
Councillor Wolf.
Here.
Council President Hu.
Here.
Mayor Lube.
Here.
And Youth Councillor Vogel.
Here.
Thank you.
If everyone will stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you, everyone. I would like to start tonight by acknowledging one of our community neighbors, the City of Durham. Mayor Sciarratto actually passed away yesterday. And so I really wanted to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about Mayor Sciarratto's contributions to the community and the City of Durham. And really let his family and his friends and his community know that we're holding them in our thoughts. So Mayor Sciarratto actually started on council in 1993, and he has served as their mayor since 1997. He was a resident of Durham since 1975, and he actually started the commission on the Planning Commission in 1997. So that's like when I started high school. What an incredible career of serving the City of Durham. And he was always incredibly welcoming to me as a new mayor, and I appreciated his partnership. And so I would just appreciate it if everyone could join me in a moment of silence, just honoring Mayor Sciarratto. Thank you. I also wanted to wish our Tigard Police Department a very happy National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, which is also today. City Council or city teammates, are there any non-agenda items to add to the meeting this evening?
None from us, Mayor.
Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to proclamations. And we have Jake Cole with us today from Bloodworks Northwest. Come on up, Jake. If you just want to take a seat, and then the microphone has a button on the front of it that will turn green for us, please. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. No, just press it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, thank you, and good evening, Tigard City Council. I'm Jake Cole, the Bloodworks Northwest Donor Services Supervisor of our Beaverton locations, our newest location. I'm here on behalf of Bloodworks Northwest, your local nonprofit blood bank in the Pacific Northwest for more than 70 years. We are excited to accept the city proclamation recognizing National Blood Donor Month here in the city of Tigard. Bloodworks Northwest is the conduit between the community and local hospitals for life-saving blood donations. Blood donations go to local hospitals such as Legacy, Providence, and Peace Health Systems. On average, every 2 seconds, a blood transfusion is needed. We aim for 1,000 donors a day to supply life-saving blood products to 95% of the Pacific Northwest hospitals we service overall. We're extremely grateful for this proclamation to help signify the importance of blood donations so that our local hospitals can continue to save local lives. In addition to being the conduit between the local community and local hospitals for life-saving blood donations, Bloodworks Bio and Bloodworks Apheresis support preeminent life-saving research and treatments with a focus on blood-borne cancers and diseases. We are very grateful to our Tigard Blood Drive partnerships, including the upcoming Whole Foods Greenway Blood Drive, which is hosting our location there next month on February 23rd. And of course, looking forward to more Tigard organization businesses in the future and partnerships we have there. Please feel free, of course, to find us at bloodworksnorthwest.org for scheduling donation opportunities. And thank you again for recognizing the National Blood Donor Month with this January 2024 proclamation. The need is dire, so if anyone is available, please do come out and help out where you can. January is our lowest time of the year for blood donations, and we do, of course, service the area around here as well. We have been coming to Tiger for quite some time, including the police department, I believe, in the past as well. So it'd be great to see more of the community come out and help support us, and we can help support our community that way. And that's basically it. Thank you guys so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Yeah, Councilor Wall.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, and I just wanted to do a shout out. I think police might have done it, but I know Public Works for, at least my short 1 year period has definitely been a champion of offering blood drives to the community, to employees and council members. So anyway, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
I always appreciate the cookies and juice afterwards.
Same. That's actually what got me into this in the first
Right?
place.
I mean, cookies and juice, you can get people to do a lot of things for that.
Yeah.
So I have a formal proclamation to provide to you.
Thank you. Oh, yes, please. Thank you. Thank you, Jesse.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. One more. Entire council. 1, 2, 3. One more. All right, 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we really appreciate every drop really does help. And I don't mean that as a joke, of course, sarcastically, but it really is. It's hard for us to get people to come in the first place. Out of every 18 phone calls, one person answers and says yes to actually scheduling an appointment. We do focus a lot on trying to get people to come in where they can off the street when we have a blood drive somewhere, which just makes it so much easier for us to come to the community rather than expect people to come to our center, because it's easier to go to where the people are. So every bit of help is huge. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much.
We will move on to public comment. Those wishing to comment by phone or video should get in line now to get in the queue. The call-in number is 503-966-4101. And anyone present who wants to comment in the room should sign up at the public comment form at the front of the room today. We will start off with follow-up to previous public comment with Assistant City Manager Nyland.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. At the December 19th council meeting, we had 5 people provide public comment, and all were in person. 4 people talked about the Tiger Downtown Alliance interest in the state's Main Street program, and they all voiced their support. The other comment talked about data being presented to council. In this instance, it was related to the parking study, specifically the concern around parking lots and heat islands. Because all the comments were made in person, we consider them received. Regarding the TDA application for Main Street, the city will be submitting a letter of support. That is my report for this evening, so stay warm and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager Nyland. Next on the agenda, we have the Chamber Board of Directors Chair, Tom Engel, to report out from the Tigard Area Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Mr. Engel.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. You should have the update sheet. A few things I just want to highlight as to what's been going on lately. Leadership Tigard had their Business and Economy Day today with several local business owners. Good variety of representation, the Downtown Alliance, the West Side Economic Alliance, and the Chamber itself. Having worked with various businesses in the area, I can tell you every community is just a little bit different, a stone's throw away, and so it was a great opportunity for them, definitely. In terms of our education, advocacy, and building a strong local economy priority, the scholarship program for high school seniors in the 97223 and 224 is now accepting applications. If you know of anybody, please encourage them to apply on the Chamber website. The Small Business Sustainability Fund that you all approved previously will be accepting applications later this month. and more information will be forthcoming, so please check out the Chamber newsletter for more details. The 50th anniversary of Shining Stars. Please, 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 we would love to have you all there. It was wonderful having so many of you there last time. Please, if you have any nominations for any of our awards, frankly, please submit those online as well. A little bit of just networking and visibility news. Good Morning Tiger this Thursday. Dennis Johnson from Center Seat Gold and Silver sponsors this once a year, and his is really, really good. It's going to sound odd, but he always comes in a toga, but there's a point. Beyond that, it's actually worth going to. It's a great way to just get to know people in the community and see what's going on. The speed networking as well, February 12th. This is a great way for you to get a really quick snapshot of different types of businesses and organizations in the community. You already know so much about what's going on in this community. This is even a deeper dive, and it's, especially as elected officials, you might really find this fun and interesting just to get a view of things. The Farmers Market, 33rd season, opening up applications as well. We have two sponsors that we are grateful for. First, the city, of course. We never take the support for granted. You have choices to make, and it's our goal to be good stewards of what you've shared with us, so thank you. And also Umpqua Bank, thank you very much, both of you. And if anybody has questions about the Farmers Market, please, by all means, reach out to the Chamber. We're looking for a new market manager, too. So if you know anybody who is just hyper-organized and has all their stuff together, even if they don't have direct market experience, please contact the Chamber. Sometimes you can take skills in other areas, and people are just really good at getting things done and managing things and dealing with lots of stakeholders. Some final dates here that I just want you to be aware of. So again, speed networking, show your business some love. Monday, February 12th. That's sponsored by PyroLife. Bowl-O-Rama, Saturday, March 9th at Tigard Bowl. Most of you know where Tigard Bowl is. It's probably one of the last old school bowling alleys around. I am not above suggesting that the city council perhaps form a team, nor am I above subsidizing that if that will get all of you there, or even some of you there. That, and we have pizza. Sorry, no juice and cookies, but we do have pizza. It is a great, fun event that, again, it's a great way to reach out to the community in an environment that's just silly, goofy, fun, and you don't even have to be a good bowler. I am a case in point. Shining Stars again, May 10th at the Embassy Suites. We would love to see as many of you there as possible. And finally, just please watch for us on social media for all the latest updates. And with that, and I'll just leave it open for questions.
Are there any questions? No? Thank you so much, Mr. Engel.
I frightened you off the toga comment.
Next item on our agenda is we have the Tigard High School Student Envoy with Julie Hernandez Botello being remote this evening. Are you with us, Julie?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for letting me do it remote this time. But there's been a lot going on at Tigard High School. Leadership has been getting a move on with assemblies. We have a few coming up. Sadly, our winter traditional assembly got canceled because some tech issues, which is really random. It was a few days before, but this Thursday we're having it again, so it's back on track. They also have a Lovers Fest type of assembly for Valentine's Day, which is super fun because I think there might be couples involved in high school, which is super fun in a high school lifestyle. But also Spirit and Dances have been working with Powder Puff and also prom, meanwhile highlighting winter sports. Activities actually is planning their Tigard Coffee House event, which is January 26th. It's sort of a talent show with many kinds of performers, but you can enjoy coffee and eat some donuts while enjoying the show. So that's super fun and very shellac sort of. ICCF is on track to plan their Winterfest, which is like an outreach event for middle schoolers that are going to Tigard High School. And it's on January 29th, hoping to bring awareness to clubs, affinity groups, and art programs. So if you guys have any middle schoolers or would like to come, I'm sure Tigard High School would love to have the counselor, just anyone there. We'll have games and food and just a community there. So in terms of sports, it's basketball, swimming, and wrestling season. And actually today, boys basketball has a game against Westview at 7 p.m. Swim has a meet against St. Mary also tomorrow. Thursday, sorry. And girls and boys varsity have a dual meet tomorrow at Tigard High School. So if you guys can come to any of those, the support is always wanted and loved. In terms of service, last weekend NHS helped with concession booths for the youth basketball tournament at Tigard High School. So that was very community bonding with middle schoolers as well as just Tigard High School. January 15th, there is a blood drive at Rise Church in Tigard, and anyone over 16 can donate, including you all. So if you guys are interested in donating, you can totally email me and I'll send you all that links and all the paperwork that needs to be filled out. Tigard Service Club is holding a street cleanup on Main Street on January 14th. Also a tree planting on January 15th. So it's a lot of service activities during MLK weekend. So there's just a lot going on. And in terms of arts, this Friday, choir students grades 9 to 12 are, 9 to 12 are participating in an all-state choir event. So students will be staying there overnight and singing with other choir students from all over the state. So that's super cool. And I've heard a lot from choir students and they're really excited for that. But that's what's going on at Tigard High School. And if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
You sound very busy as always. Are there any questions for Julie? No? Seeing none, thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is written public comment, and we did receive 3 comments by noon yesterday. The first is from Jill Sims, who is concerned about the Bull Mountain Road and 99W intersection and those traffic changes and being able to quickly get through that intersection. Emily Stewart has firework concerns and urged the City Council to move forward with, just summarizing, I think, taking care of fireworks. By the email, it sounded like a ban. And Debbie Rubottom also emailed us with fireworks concerns, requesting us to move forward with a ban. So those were the 3 comments received. I don't believe there is anyone signed up for in-person public comment tonight.
Not at this time, Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much. Network Administrator Vang, are there any phone callers or video callers in the queue for us this evening?
We have no callers in the queue and no video comment requests.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And we now have the City Manager report with City Manager Reimer.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, good evening, Mayor, members of the council, members of the community, and my teammates. Just a few updates. I want to start, as this is our first meeting of 2024, by thanking my teammates in this organization for all their efforts over the course of the year in 2023. As you know, we've accomplished a great deal. We had many things, many projects, many initiatives happening, ways to support our community, work with our partner agencies, and it really happens because of the 350 plus teammates that we have in all the departments. So kudos to all of them, and I'm looking forward to obviously working with all of them, as I know you are as well. So here's to a successful 2024. I also want to thank many teammates in the police department for their efforts in helping coordinate 2 successful events last week. One was held in here, which was the oath of office for our interim police chief, Jamie McDonald, one of our new officers, Officer Wanley, and then 2 interim assignments for Sitton and Prater. And so thanks to those of you that were available to attend. And this room was packed, which was really cool, having community members, once again, community organizations that support us, as well as many teammates from throughout the organization here to support our police teammates. So that was great to see. And then the following night, or late afternoon, we honored retiring Chief McAlpine at the Broad Rose Theater, so thanks to them as well for hosting, and for Kelsey for leading us through that event. And it was a successful event, once again, with many great things said about the chief, and I know she felt very appreciated that evening. So thanks once again to many of you, as well as our teammates and community for being at those. Just a few other things to share with all of you. A couple updates from our library teammates in Halstead. One is something that I know many of you were paying attention to, which was our library hold lockers that we have there. And so I've learned in the first 2 months we had 604 items were retrieved from the lockers by 47 different patrons. So that's great. And we, as always, we have some great quotes and comments from our community members. The one that Halstead shared with me says, "I love having the books checked out and waiting for me in the lobby. The little door popping open just makes me smile. I appreciate having expanded hours to pick up my books too." So once again, as we always talk about, and as you heard from our team, it's just one more way of trying to serve our community. So I'm glad that's off to a successful start. We also are working in partnership with Washington County Behavioral Health at the library to have a program about finding health information online that you can trust. Finding health information online that you can trust, and really how to navigate all the different information on there. So thanks to our partners at Washington County Behavioral Health for being part of that with us. And then my last thing for tonight is we're continuing to engage our community about our climate efforts. Kenny Asher and many others in our organization are involved in that, and so we're going to be hosting a meeting tomorrow night at 5:30 in the Burgess Community Room at the library, just to engage with the community, try to get people excited and involved in ways that we can continue to advance our climate efforts within the organization, and as importantly within the community and region. And so we will share what we learned from that, and also next week, as you have your goal update, we'll be able to share more information about our climate efforts. So with that concludes my remarks for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the report? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda as the local contract review board. The consent agenda is used for routine items including approval of minutes, contracts, or intergovernmental agreements. Information on each item is available on the city's website in the packet for this meeting. These items may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion, and council members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. On the consent agenda tonight is the Government Affairs Consulting and Lobbying Services for State and Federal Contract. Are there any questions or comments or a motion this evening?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
Mayor Lube, I just would like to make a comment that just appreciate the services and the impact that work has done for the city. And I think just to acknowledge that, given that it's on consent. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that acknowledgement. I think we have an incredible team who really helps us be efficient and smart with our time on the federal and the state level that has resulted in significant dollars that come back to the city. So it's a great investment that the city makes. All of those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion is adopted by unanimous vote of the council present. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is the Marlon Henderson Community Grant Program, and we have Finance Director Kang here to present the staff report. Welcome, Mr. Kang.
Finance Director. Today we are here to follow up on guidance received at the November 14th, 2023 council meeting regarding the Marlon Henderson Grant Program. Attached in your packet, you'll see a resolution following council's guidance, and the city is ready to implement the Social Services Grant Program later this month. And as part of the process, we'll be informing all of our past grantees about the upcoming grant opportunity. And I am here and available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kang. I know I think, had a fairly robust conversation on this topic last month. I don't know, there's been a holiday, it was a while ago. And I want to continue to acknowledge that this is not a reflection on Mr. Henderson's service to this community. We believe he's done an incredible job servicing this community. It's simply the fact that the way in which the previous council chose to commemorate him is not appropriate use of city funds, and we are trying to rectify that and continue to find ways to honor Mr. Henderson and his service. And so I just, again, want to reiterate, I understand that it's probably an incredibly hard thing not to take personally, to have something like this be rescinded, but that truly we appreciate Mr. Henderson's service, and we want to continue to find a way of appropriately acknowledging and commemorating him, and move forward with appropriate ways to spend community tax dollars. So are there any questions or comments regarding this resolution? Is there a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 24-01.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the city recorder please read the number and title of the resolution?
Resolution number 24-01, a resolution in support. Sorry, one moment. Resolution number 24-01, a resolution repealing resolution number 16-48 related to the Marlon Henderson Community Grant.
Thank you, Deputy City Recorder. Will the youth counselor please give an advisory vote?
Yes.
Thank you. All of those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion to approve Resolution 24-01 is adopted by unanimous vote of the council. Thank you, Mr. King. Next item on our agenda is we have the electric mobility and curbside management strategy project update with Principal Transportation Planner Roth. Welcome. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you. Good evening, councilors and Mayor Lube. Let me find my name tag. Here we go. All right, I'm Dave Roth, Principal Transportation Planner, and I will be providing you a briefing on the electric mobility and curbside management strategy project tonight. Next slide, please. All right, so this is a long anticipated update, as we've been talking about this project for quite some time now. You've heard references to it during the climate action report or climate resiliency planning effort. 2 of the last TTAC annual reports to council, and in our quarterly CD community development updates as well. And you even heard about it, I think, during the development and adoption of the 2040 Transportation System Plan. So we've been talking about this for a long time, and I'm happy to share that we're finally getting ready to get moving on this thing. So this is the project that's funded by the Transportation Growth Management Program, which is a collaborative effort between ODOT and the Department of Land Conservation and Development. And we've received multiple grants over the years from TGM to fund projects. We have a project underway right now, Downtown Reimagined, which is funded by the TGM program. I'll just note that we originally applied for this, for funding for this project back in July of 2021. We applied for and were awarded $110,000 for the project, and it's taken quite some time to get through the procurement process at ODOT, but it's not alone. I think I saw on the list about 5 or 6 other projects that kind of took a similar length of time across the state to get going. So anyway, tonight I'm going to share background on the project, tell you a bit about the project purpose, our objectives, timeline, and then I'll leave a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. Next slide. All right, so this is a key project in the Carbon Responsible Community Development portfolio. I'll note that at the state level, 40% of greenhouse gas emissions are from the transportation sector, and locally, we learned during development of the final climate action plan that 41% of greenhouse gas emissions within Tigard are from the transportation sector. It's the single largest sector, both at the state and locally, although if you combine commercial and residential buildings, that sector is slightly larger than transportation, just FYI. Most of the transportation greenhouse gas emissions are from cars and light trucks, just like the Toyota Sienna minivan that my family drives around to meet our daily transportation needs. The vast majority of trips taken by Tigard residents are in fossil fuel powered vehicles. And I want to make one correction here. It's actually, this is data from the Transportation System Plan. It should have been 92%. So 92% of all trips taken in Tigard or by Tigard residents are in cars and light trucks. The 87% would be the figure if we implemented all of the TSP programs, policies, and projects. We would get that down a little bit, and the differential would be made up by transit and walking and bicycling. I want to note here, though, that there is some good news, and that we're seeing the transition to electric vehicles take hold. I think everybody is seeing more and more electric vehicles on the roadways. Just last fall, the Oregon Department of Energy released a report that said that there are nearly 70,000 EVs registered on Oregon roads, and that's up from 38,000 in 2021, so almost doubling in a couple of years, and up from only 300 EVs registered in Oregon a decade ago. So growth is happening. People are buying EVs, year-over-year growth. So it's happening, and that's great news for our climate. Next slide, please. So a little bit more background here. So it's worth noting that we've done some work and analysis that's can be found in our climate action report, and part of what this report did is it provided information about where our greenhouse gas emissions are coming from and how much there are across the city, across the different sectors. And another piece of this work was to identify a number of low carbon actions that can be taken by the city if we were interested in becoming carbon neutral by 2035. And it's noteworthy that 4 of 5 of those low carbon actions are associated, or of the transportation sector low carbon actions are associated with electrification. And so if you want, you can dive into this report and see these in more depth, but these really focus on things like electrifying transit in alignment with TriMet's goals, so making sure that in the future buses are electric. Electrifying the municipal fleet, and the plan suggests that by 2028, 100% of our fleet should be electrified. That's a tall order, but doable. Action 12 is electrify personal vehicles and light-duty commercial vehicles, and starting with 30% of the fleet in Tigard, the fleet of vehicles that people are driving daily, 30% at 2025, up to 100% by 2035. And then by 2025, ensuring 10% of new medium-duty and heavy-duty commercial vehicles are zero emission. By 2030, 90%, and then by 2035, 100%. So these are some pretty lofty goals around electrification, but if we have the right strategies in place, we can help support that change over time. I just wanted to note, just for your own education here, when I say medium-duty vehicles, these are medium-duty trucks. These are like the Amazon delivery vehicles, and also box trucks, fire trucks, school buses fit into that category. And then heavy-duty trucks are more of like city transit vehicles, cement mixers, garbage trucks, tractors, and large, long-haul trucks, for your information. All right, next slide. So Transportation electrification is needed, clearly, but how do we do this equitably and supportive of broader policy objectives? So one of the primary objectives of this project is to create a strategy that ensures the transition is done in an inclusive and equitable way. And you'll see this little graphic that I pulled from Statista that just shows that, you know, the cost or the sales price of new vehicles right now, or recent information here, shows that, you know, cars are not expensive these days. I think if you've shopped for a new car, you probably know that, or for an EV. And it seems like there are limited options for, you know, smaller, less expensive vehicles on the market right now. So one of the objectives of this project, and we were scoping this thing and writing our grant application, was to really focus on equity and making sure that we think about affordable options for people going forward, especially within the electrification framework here. So we set out to ensure that the mobility needs of our entire population are considered and factored into recommendations and decision-making with the project. Next slide. So the project purpose: the electric mobility and curbside management strategy will investigate and inform implementation actions and local policy decisions that can be made over the next 5 years to support electrification. And really, this can be thought of as like a 5-year strategic plan for us in terms of electrification. So if you look at other cities who've done these sorts of things, a lot of you know, commonalities you'll see is like looking for where we put charging infrastructure. So this plan will do that. It will provide recommendations in terms of where future chargers go, but it will do a lot more as well, focusing on the equitable piece that I spoke about earlier. I'll just mention that since we had a little bit of extra time as this was going through the procurement process, we decided to add an additional component to the body of work. So originally this was conceived as just the electric mobility strategy, but given some of the other things that were happening within the community and statewide, we added in the curbside management piece. So that's going to be another element of this project. And when I say curbside management, it's kind of a jargony way of, talking about parking management, the on-street parking management. So how do we manage the curb? It's public space. You know, what's the highest and best use for that space? So this project will help us answer some of those questions. You all should be familiar with community development's deployment of carbon responsible land use-based strategies to reduce reliance on single occupancy vehicles by targeting higher density and mixed use development in key areas. So in combination with these initiatives and the recent elimination of minimum parking requirements citywide, we know that there's going to be more competition for limited curb space, especially in places like the Tiger Triangle, downtown, in the future, Washington Square. And so we really need to start thinking about how we're managing that space better. And there's a complementary linkage with electrification because we will be talking about chargers in that space. So they complement each other very well. Next slide. All right, so more information on the project purpose. So you'll see, we'll analyze strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities, challenges related to electrification. The project will recommend new policies or updates to existing policies, and this is a requirement of TGM-funded work. So we have to come out of this project with a set of recommendations. So we will likely come back either in a standalone process or through another project or projects to bring potential changes to our development code or other policies that might be found in the transportation system plan. So we'll have some very specific recommendations coming out of this. I should note this will be a holistic approach inclusive of EVs, transit considerations, e-bikes, and other emerging electric micromobility modes. I think just within the last couple of weeks, you've probably been hearing a bit about scooters. I've seen some churn in the scooter industry where a couple of the larger players recently went bankrupt. So I think you'll see some of these companies kind of rise to the top and kind of take over more market space, but that's something that we're interested in talking about. Is there room or opportunity for shared electric bikes or micromobility options in Tiger? Then this project will explore that. Next slide. So getting into the curbside management piece, I already mentioned this previously, but things that we'll be thinking about here. Well, number one, the primary focus for the curbside management piece will be in the Tigard Triangle. That's our biggest growth area right now. We're seeing a lot of multifamily mixed-use projects going in with limited parking. And so we'll focus here first, but some of the recommendations for the triangle will also be able to be applied elsewhere, such as downtown or other locations in the city. But we'll be thinking about on-street parking management, pickup and drop-off spaces for, say, Uber or Lyft type services, or commercial uses where we have a lot more deliveries happening. So we need to be thinking about how we allocate space for delivery vehicles. On-street dining. This is something that we investigated during the pandemic. We actually, Lloyd Purdy and myself, scoured the city looking for opportunities where we might have on-street dining locations. We don't have a lot in the city now, but it's something in the future as the Tigard Triangle builds out and we have more of a gridded street network, something that we might want to think about in the future. Public transit, so what can we do to support transit stops and amenities for transit riders? And then, of course, accessibility needs, so making sure that our curb and this public space serves everybody, even people with mobility impairments. Next slide. And then objectives of the project. So we'll identify and elevate needs of underserved populations. We'll identify opportunities, constraints, and recommendations related to transportation and mobility electrification, as well as curbside management. And then we'll create this 5-year roadmap with actions that we can take to advance transportation electrification and manage the curb in a way that demonstrably reduces greenhouse gas emissions. I want to acknowledge here that I mentioned earlier that the Climate Action Plan recommended that we convert our fleet to 100%, our city fleet to 100% EVs, and I just want to acknowledge that we've been working on purchasing some EVs, and we have run into some marketplace limitations, and I think that's something that's not unique to Tigard, but that's related to vehicle availability, features that we may need for certain functions of the city, cost, et cetera, and so we'll talk a bit more about that during this project. Next slide. Additionally, we'll again develop recommendations for shared micromobility options in the city. This next bullet, this may sound familiar to you, but we scoped into this work, including a pilot project to provide electric mobility solutions with multifamily and residential mixed-use development. We jumped the gun and we did that already with the Power to the Pedal project. So exciting that we've got that done, but we do have some scope related to that, so we can talk about expansion or thinking also about co-locating shared electric vehicles, cars, with multifamily housing as well. And then I mentioned elimination of minimum parking requirements, so the curbside management plan will speak to that change in the city. Next slide. So next slide here is around next steps. So we have the IGA between the city and ODOT, and that's working its way through ODOT right now for signatures. So that's, we can check that off our list very shortly. And then we'll also be back at an upcoming meeting with a supplementary budget request to expend funds for our local match. So you'll see that on a council agenda very soon here. And then we'll kick off the project as soon as we can pay our match for the project. And we expect the project to be 12 to 18 months in duration, and then the output will be a strategic plan with specific policy recommendations. And with that, I'll leave it there and see if we have any questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. I will start with Councilor Shaw. Given her background in electrification, I figured that would be a good place to start with any questions.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Lube. You beat me to raising my hand. And Just want to mention also in Tiger Life, I don't know if you can see this, but in the December and January 2024 issue, they actually had a wonderful article on the Oregon Electric Railway, which actually started on January 1, 1908. So excited that the state is following up on that transition to electrification, and that the city of Tigard is ensuring that our community, our residents will not be left behind. So
Councillor Shaw, you muted yourself.
thank you. I'm sorry for that. Also want to commend Principal Transportation Planner Roth for all his work on this plan, and also the city on working towards electrifying its fleet and implementing the power to the pedal. We were ahead of the curve on that, and look forward to also possibly doing car share with our multi-family housing. So with that, I just want to commend the city, but also Transportation Planner Roth and all the good work they've done, and look forward to working with the in this transition. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yeah. Oh, Councillor Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Dave, for this presentation and the update. Yeah, I think, I was just thinking about just inclusive processes, and I think, as someone who owns an electric vehicle, like it was hard for me to just navigate the process of, especially around incentives. And I think education is going to be a critical component in the strategic planning and policy recommendations. So I look forward to hearing more about that and how we can support, making language accessible education and curriculum around navigating and accessing these resources. So, thanks.
Council President Hu.
Thank you, Mayor Loop. Thank you, Dave, for your presentation. I'm just curious to wonder. I'm just wondering if any of this will come back with policy decision that will affect or somehow help us to generate cleaner electricity as well, or is that typically not city's function? Because, all those things are great, but we still have to get electricity somewhere, and so I'm just curious to see if the city can do anything to help with cleaner energy generation, or is that something that's not within our preview?
That's a great question, and I don't have a great answer for you off the top of my head, but I think it's great that you're raising it, and I think we can incorporate that into the work, to whatever extent we can. This plan could provide some recommendations. We don't have a lot of control locally necessarily about the cleanliness of the grid, but something worth noting and making some suggestions on. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
We also have the microgrid conversation next week that I think ties into this about the different possibilities of, power generation and power storage. So I think they tie together in that way. So stay tuned for next week. Councillor Wolf, did you have any questions? Thank you, Dave, for the work on this. I just wanted to add, again, I am a part of Climate Mayors, and we have really great access to different things, which also includes sometimes group co-op car purchasing for electric vehicles and other ways. So if there are ways we can leverage any of the connections with the Climate Mayors to forward any of this work, please let me know, because they are working way ahead of the curve and leading in this conversation.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Take that into account. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Next item on our agenda is a public hearing on Downtown Tigard 2040 Center boundary amendment, and I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify by phone or video or in person, please get into the queue. You can call by dialing 503-966-4101. And we have Senior Planner Warren here to present the teammate report. Welcome. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. My name is Skylar Warren. I am a Senior Planner in the Department of Community Development. Tonight's public hearing is on an amendment to our Downtown 2040 Center boundary. Next slide. So I want to start off with just a little bit of an intro on what a 2040 center is exactly, because it's a little bit of an arcane designation. This was a designation originally created by Metro back in 1995. It is part of the 2040 growth concept. The idea behind that growth concept, of course, is to, in conformance with state land use laws and our statewide planning goals, to contain growth within the urban growth boundary, but also to direct it to areas that are best equipped to handle mixed-use development, transit connectivity, those kind of things. And so the growth concept is really built around this idea of centers that are spread throughout the region that are either town or regional centers. Those are connected by corridors. And then there are also main streets, which are, there's not very many of them, but actually Tigard's Main Street is considered a main street in the growth concept. And then there are station communities, and those are areas that are built around high capacity transit service. Next slide. So I'm going to show you this map. It's not very legible, admittedly, but I just want to give you an idea of kind of what the kind of context looks like here. This, of course, is our region, and when I'm talking about those centers, the areas that are shown in pink are the centers. There's actually a city center that's only the center of Portland, but the town centers and regional centers are spread throughout the region. The corridors are designated here by the sort of ochre or deep yellow color. And next slide. So if we zoom in to Tigard area, it's important to note that we have a regional center, that's Washington Square Regional Center. That's actually a trans-jurisdictional center. It crosses over into Beaverton, as well as unincorporated Washington County. Progress Ridge is actually a town center. And then King City's town hall area is also a town center. And part of that town center crosses over into Tigard as well. But aside from Washington Square, our main town center is going to be our downtown. And that's shown here. And as you can see, it also includes the Tigard Triangle. Next slide. So 2040 centers, they're a little odd because they're designated regionally in collaboration with cities, but they don't have quite the same land use sort of use that a lot of the other designations that are on our maps do. They are a method of directing growth to mixed-use areas. They are implemented by Metro's Urban Growth Management Functional Plan, but what's unique about them is that there's no requirement within the UGMFP to adopt those boundaries. Instead, the primary nexus with those boundaries is around planning grants. So you've heard of the 2040 Planning and Development Grant Program. We've received several of those over the years, including one that we have right now to support our River Terrace 2.0 work. But in order to get a grant to fund any kind of work within those areas, you actually have to adopt the boundaries. So that's how Metro sort of enforces that. But there's not really a directive within the UGMFP that you meet certain criteria within those areas, except to be sort of at a high level focused on densification, mixed use, transit, those kind of things. Next slide. So that's changed a little bit within the last couple of years. So with the climate friendly and equitable communities work, and I apologize for that shorthand up there. But that project required the designation of what are called climate-friendly areas in cities across the state. And those are areas that, those cities are expected to direct higher density, mixed-use growth that's served by transit. So Metro, upon hearing that, said, "Hey, we've got something that's very similar to that. Rather than doing climate-friendly areas in the Metro region, can we just apply our 2040 centers to that work?" And the state agreed. And so, as a result of that, it's now required by the state that if the 2040 center boundary is not adopted locally, it must be adopted. And the important thing here, because we do actually, I'll get into the history here, we actually do already have our boundary adopted, but the change in the state rules around these centers that has an impact on us is that within that boundary, there's a different level of transportation analysis that is required for any kind of zoning and development code amendments. As it happens, we are doing some development code and zoning changes right now in downtown with our Downtown Reimagined project. And so what we found in the process of doing that work is that we needed to align this boundary with the planning area for that work and the plan district that's in our zoning map, so that we didn't end up doing two different types of analysis to meet the state rules. Next slide. So again, the history of this 2040 center boundary is we did, it was, I think, formally adopted at some point. We weren't able to find the records on when that originally happened. But we do know that it was amended in 2010 by a resolution to expand the downtown 2040 center boundary to include the Tiger Triangle, because the city was interested in directing high-density mixed-use growth served by transit in that area. That boundary was amended once again in 2017 by ordinance, and that was primarily to address some procedural issues with the adoption by resolution that had been raised by the Oregon Department of Transportation. Next slide. So the boundary amendment that's before you tonight is going to bring the 2040 center boundary largely into alignment with the downtown plan district. It will expand the boundary along the southeastern edge to include the areas that we would expect would be part of the Southwest Corridor station area, should that project proceed at any point in the future. And it also will remove from the 2040 center boundary certain residential areas that are west of downtown, southwest of downtown. We had already made some changes with the downtown rezoning project back in 2019 to remove those residential areas already developed with single detached houses from the MUCBD zone, which is our downtown zone, because they were unlikely to ever develop downtown style development. This boundary change brings the 2040 center boundary in alignment with that change. Next slide. So this is one of the more simple legislative projects I've brought to you. This is the entirety of the change that's before you. We will be changing the boundary shown in black here to now be the boundary shown in red. And like I said, you can see that Southwest Corridor area that was added. The Tigard Library area and Brown Natural areas is also included. And you can see along that southwestern edge where the residential areas have been removed. Next slide. So the recommendation from Planning Commission was to adopt this boundary change, and the community development team concurs with that recommendation. Next slide. So with that, any questions that you have for me about this, I welcome those.
We will move on to the public testimony, and then we can do questions afterwards with the public, the way that the public hearings go. There were no written comments received for this item noon by Monday. Network Administrator Vang, are there any callers in the queue?
No callers.
And Deputy City Recorder Raimundo, has anyone signed up in person?
None at this time, Mayor.
They have not, so there is no response to testimony. And we will close the public hearing. And now there's council consideration, so if there are questions regarding, yeah, Council President Hu.
Thank you, Mayor Loop. Thank you, Skylar. I'm just curious, at the end, the introduction of the Planning Commission report, it says city staff are proposing to amend the town center boundary to largely match the planned district boundary. So what do you say largely? So it's not exact match?
It's not an exact match, and part of that is because the 2040 center boundary includes the Tigard Triangle. So there are two different plan districts there. There's the Tigard Triangle Plan District, and there's the Downtown Plan District. You know, the boundary is not going to match up with the Tigard Triangle and the Downtown Plan District. The other change is that along the northern edge, along Hall Boulevard, the 2040 center boundary extends all the way up to the regional center. That is not part of the downtown plan district, but we felt that there's no impact on the Downtown Reimagine project in terms of leaving that in there, and we felt that long term it was probably better to leave that connective corridor between the two centers in case our proposal for development along that corridor changed, in order to connect those two centers through development patterns, transit use, whatever. So those are the major differences between the plan district boundary and the 2040 center boundary.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Shaw?
Great, thank you. Appreciate Senior Planner Warren. Question for you with regards to additional roads that may or may not have been put in, such as Southwest 72nd Avenue or maybe even Sequoia Parkway. Was there a reason those were not included, given the potential future of transportation and transit?
On the Tigard Triangle side, I can't really speak to
no downtown. I think Southwest 72nd would be closer to downtown and been included in that, in this 2040 center there.
So it's so the downtown plan district essentially ends at currently at Hall Boulevard, and we would be expanding it to the east of Hall Boulevard to include the library and the Southwest Corridor light rail station. The Tigard Triangle Plan District includes the 72nd. So we didn't, with regard to the 2040 center piece of it, we didn't really look at the Tigard Triangle portion of it in terms of where we could align things there. Certainly with a future project we could, but we just, we weren't really looking at that side at the moment.
Okay, so since there's a corridor between Washington and downtown, there isn't a similar corridor between downtown and the Tigard Triangle?
I think that corridor would essentially be Hunziker, but there's not really currently a connective roadway between the two.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any additional questions or comments? Or a motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 24-01.
Second the motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the Deputy City Recorder please read the number and title of the ordinance?
Ordinance number 24-01, an ordinance to amend the Tigard Town Center boundary and adopt the boundary as part of the comprehensive plan map.
Thank you. Will the Deputy City Recorder please conduct a roll call vote?
Councillor Shaw?
Yes.
Councillor Singh?
Yes.
Councillor Wolf?
Yes.
Council President Hu,
Yes.
and Mayor Lube.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance 24-01 is adopted by a 5-0 vote of the council. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the 2024 state and federal legislative agendas, and we have Senior Management Analyst Hendricks here with us to present the teammate report. Happy New Year.
Thanks. Yeah. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to see you, and yeah, Happy New Year. My name is Nicole Hendricks. I'm the Senior Management Analyst in the City Manager's Office here at Tigard, and I'm here tonight to present the priorities and items for Tigard's 2024 state and federal legislative agendas. So our ask tonight is that we review and consider the priority list and the items in there, suggest any or provide any insight, suggest any edits to those lists, and hopefully affirm those tonight so that we can move forward with these agendas. Once language gets approved, we take this to our design team. They do a great job and make it final, and then we distribute that to you all, our legislators, partners. It's one tool in our legislative toolbox. So sorry, lost my mouse there for a sec. So then to help our kind of development of the agendas, usually what we do is we review and consider issues that we see from the National League of Cities and the League of Oregon Cities, what they're prioritizing, which for the League of Oregon Cities, they do that adoption of priorities every 2 years. So the ones that they established last year remain, and those are items such as addressing Measure 110, houselessness, transportation safety, things like that. And we also get input from our internal team experts, what they're hearing in their work, and from our leadership team from their perspective fields. And one of the conversations that came up this year actually with our leadership team is the desire to explore ways for council and leadership to come together early on in the agenda kind of setting process, probably more in the fall, to work collaboratively on just our legislative approach and priorities. So that's a goal for us for developing our 2025 agendas, but I just wanted to share it here that was something that we're interested in thinking more about for next year. This year we also did just kind of reach out to council early on just to get a general sense via email of just key priority areas, and I'll show you that on the next slide, but just to get a sense if we're on the right track, and then if you're interested in more specific items that we can add to our build tracker, and also work with our lobbyists on to make sure that those don't get lost as the agenda. We're seeking out more opportunities than just what's on the agenda. So we appreciate any insight that you're interested in. We're also guided by our city initiatives, so our community priorities and council goals, and our community promise, which you see our 5 E's there, which is the lens through which we approach all of our initiatives. So this year, for our key priority areas, you see the state and the federal agendas. We're recommending no major changes. So for our state agenda, we have the main priority areas of transportation and infrastructure, housing and mental health services, and then city funding and local control. And then for federal, city funding still, and then transportation infrastructure focus. Specifically on the state front, our approach this year was to not make too many big changes since we're approaching a short legislative session. So that goes from February to March, and we felt that keeping our priorities similar to last year will allow us to keep that momentum and focus with the little limited time we do have. And again, we're going to approach other opportunities as they arise and align with our city values and community promise. So it doesn't have to be on this list for us to pursue it. We will pursue other things as well. There are a few items that are listed in green on this slide that we did want to add: greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, flexible housing and innovation investment, and vertical housing development zones. And there's a little bit more about each one of those in the draft language that's attached in your packet. But those were 3 that we wanted to add. For state, we will be coordinating with our government affairs consultants. So that was exciting to see that contract get awarded tonight for CFM advocates. They've been super great to work with, and they will help inform and track bills that we're interested in, advocate for these larger priorities and projects, and strategize, and they help us go after grants at the federal level. So we will continue to coordinate with them and the League of Oregon Cities and regional partners and the county and things like that. So, and then on the federal side, similar to our approach with the state agenda, we're not recommending any major changes, but just rather continuing that work from this past year on the two main priorities, which is project funding requests. That includes things like the federal earmarks that we try to pursue for projects like Hall Boulevard safety improvements and Universal Plaza Phase 2 and things like that. So we will continue to go after those opportunities. And then on the transportation and infrastructure side, the same specific issues that we focused on last year. So with that, we're just asking for your feedback on what's being proposed tonight. If you have any edits, we'd like to move forward with adopting with those edits, but also open to any approach you want to take. So if you have any questions, I will take this moment and say I don't know a lot of the technical pieces of some of these items, so I might have to follow up with some of our expert teammates if you have specific questions on some of the items, but happy to follow up after the meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Hendricks. That was really helpful. I am just going to start with my questions and comments first, since I think I'm so intimately involved in these agendas. And I would agree. I think the state legislative agenda with the short session, there are two themes that are emerging given the discussions that I've had. The first is around Measure 110 reform, and the second is around housing. Every legislator gets two bills, so there will be a bunch of smaller stuff going on in the background, but the major focus of time has been on those two issues. And when I start to sort of think about maybe our state legislative agenda, I worry if we were to hand this over to legislators that it would be overwhelming because there's so much on it that's not going to be addressed in this short session. And I wonder if it's worth having a conversation, certainly keeping, the state of good repair because they're having that conversation and those sorts of things, but maybe pare it down to really focus in on things, that I think pertain to what is going on in the session. And I would ask I have given testimony advocating for continued Measure 110 reform, but that's not specifically called out in our state legislative item, and if that's an interest of the council to put it on. So maybe let's start with the state level. And I just threw a lot at you, and I apologize, Nicole, also for turning the plan on its head, but I sort of think, handing it over and saying, here's a whole bunch of stuff, but we know you're not going to talk about 2/3 of it, thinking about somebody handing that to me, it would look like sort of a waste of time trying to weed through what they could do. So I'm just throwing out a thought. I'm seeing head nodding. Nicole, you're not here to see the head nodding of the council, who I think generally agree. Councilor Shaw, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would wholeheartedly agree with you in your comments with regards to Measure 110 and housing, and I would also add environment. Even in the short session, they are looking at a few measures, including additional funding for the Oregon Electric Vehicle Rebate Program. And to Principal Transportation Roth's comment earlier, they do tend to be more expensive than internal combustion engines, and we'd like that program to continue. Would fit nicely within the greenhouse gas emission state reduction targets language, where there are two programs called out, both the Equitable Communities Project as well as the Climate Protection Project. So I would just ask, and I've got some language that I actually emailed to Nicole, and apologize for not saying that sooner. I'd mentioned it to City Manager Reimer, that we include that in there just to make that equitable purchase for low to moderate income, enable them to get up to $7,500 to purchase electric vehicles.
Are there any other comments from councilors? Yeah, Councilor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor Lube. And just to my support, I agree. that to pare down, I think it also makes us reflect on the goals of the legislature. And so I just support your comments. And I also appreciate the clarity that if we're talking about Measure 110, that we state that clearly versus, I think right now, public safety reform is maybe what's listed.
Yep.
Yeah, so just support your thinking. So thank you.
Yeah, I think public safety reform could mean sort of specifically in the police realm, or it could be talking about Measure 110. I think it's kind of vague. And I will say, I think with this specific eye on the state legislative session of 24, and once that ends, then the list expands and we start having conversations, later this spring and this summer with pushing the larger priority forward to be prepared for the 25 long session, because work for that starts as soon as this one ends. So it may be kind of confusing. The 24 legislative session would go through the end of March. Councillor Singh?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I would probably push back on the Measure 110 reform. I know there's a strong coalition sort of pushing back against that. So that's my perspective, but I think I align with those organizations that are sort of pushing back, but I know as a city, we're taking that stand. So just wanted to put that on record.
I appreciate you calling that out. Thank you for that. Youth Councillor Vogel?
Yeah, I just want to agree and echo what Councillor Wolf said as well, just clearing up a little bit of that and seeing really what we want to align ourselves with. And I love that, sorry, this of course aligns with our city initiatives as well, so I really appreciate that.
Yes, Council President Hu.
I agree with the concept of simplifying this, since the legislature only will have a limited amount of time. So just to be clear, when we say Measure 110, are we going to say more about what we want, or?
Yeah, I think that's probably a deeper conversation that we should probably have. I think I've sent over the testimony that I've given conversations with our business community, our downtown community, our officers and their experiences. But maybe that's something that we should provide some more information on and have a little bit more of a discussion. I'm not prepared to talk about it in detail right at this moment, but certainly.
Okay, yeah. So I support simplifying down to Measure 110 and the other two top topics that you mentioned.
Okay. Nicole, so what I'm hearing is definitely paring it down. I think getting communication out to the council on Measure 110, sort of, and then coming back in the future, hopefully, I don't want to direct, but just coming back with a pared down that would be, we could approve in the future. Were you raising your hand, Councilor Wolf? Yeah.
So Mayor Lubin, I apologize if you said this and I missed it while I was thinking about it, but I know that you testified, I think, in conjunction with League of Oregon City, and their documents are very clear. So maybe we don't support all things, but maybe there's pieces we want to emphasize, and that'd be a great starting point or tool.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Are we feeling good about the direction of the state agenda? Okay. On the federal agenda, yes to all of these things. And the more I think about it, and an email I received recently too, just actually highlighted it again for me, because I've had a remarkable amount of conversations around Tigard zip codes in the last 6 months. And the complexity around the fact that we technically don't have our own zip codes. And I would love for us to figure out and work with CFM and Congresswoman Salinas to get Tigard its own zip codes so we stop coming up as Portland. So I would like to add that to our federal legislative agenda. While it's not something I think that's maybe robust and sexy, I think that actually would have a huge impact across our community for the foreseeable future. So I would like to add that to figure out, what do we need to do? It is an act of Congress, I do know that. And it has something to do with getting a postmaster. Nicole, we got a thumbs up from Councillor Shaw. Excellent. Because I get that question all the time. Why does it come up as Portland? So, Council President who?
Yeah, I support that. And from the community, I also heard about waiting half an hour for the train to clear the track. I think that's a federal issue, but I'm not sure it's appropriate for this. And my personal observation also is that we no longer have a direct flight to Asia anymore from Portland. And that might be a economic or transportation issue. And there's one more I forgot, but hopefully I'll get back, remember before this is over.
Yes, Nicole.
Maybe on the zip code front, I would love to just like check with CFM first to see like what does it take, and see like what preliminary kind of actions we can take, just as like a next step. So,
Yeah, no, I think that's a
I'll
good
follow up
starting
on that.
point of
Okay.
where do we start advocating for our own zip codes?
Yeah.
Yeah, Councilor Wolf.
Representative Doherty, right, was a huge champion of that through the state process, Nicole. So that might be another shout out to Margaret and see the steps she took.
Outside of the zip code, as far as just different requests that we have, does anybody have anything else that they think of top of mind to add? Yes, Council President who?
I remember get rid of daylight saving time.
So technically, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly from many news articles I've read, Oregon, Washington, and California have an agreement through the state legislatures. If all three agree, it will be done away with. And I can't remember what time I just want the time changing to stop too. So I believe Oregon passed it, Washington passed it, and California did not. So, but I think we could certainly start advocating perhaps on the federal level, but just know we could also, in theory, continue to advocate on the state level. Because it can be done through the state process. We're just in a cooperative with the West Coast states. So much random information that I've got right up here. Councillor Singh, Youth Councillor Vogel, anything to add? Any questions?
Not this short session, but probably next legislative session I think transportation would be, is going to be a big issue. So that's just.
Yeah. Are you talking about the state side or the federal side?
State.
Got it. Yeah, that's going to be a robust discussion, and whether or not we're going to get a transportation package in 25. But they're already starting those discussions. Yeah. Nicole, did we actually give you any guidance on the federal? Because I think we had some robust conversation.
Yeah, well, I have some next steps in terms of working, with CFM on zip codes and maybe looking into some advocacy on that front, and maybe, daylight savings as well. And then, for the state side, sounds like I'll come back with a kind of a revised version, pared down version, and then we'll also share information with council about Measure 110 and things like that. So I think I have clear direction.
Well, and I also, if we could just ask CFM about even advocacy for a direct flight to Asia, because I think that is interesting that we no longer have one. Maybe why and what the impact has been. Not just, for Tigard, but for our region. All right. Anything else to add? Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
We don't have any non-agenda items this evening, and we don't have an executive session scheduled. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All of those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion is adopted by unanimous vote of the council. We are adjourned. Thank you so much. Good night, Tigard.
Night, Tiger.